German Shepherd cartoon service animal named Spike and a light-colored Labrador cartoon service animal named Roxy stand in front of a bright-colored school. They talk with each other and move their mouths, heads, arms, and legs. The camera angles change at times between wide, medium, and tight shots of characters.
Hi everyone, it's Spike along with my friend Roxy, who is being trained to be a service dog.
Hello.
We're going to talk about the ADA now, or what is known as the Americans with Disabilities Act. The ADA is a law that protects the rights of people with disabilities.
What does that mean?
Well, it would not be okay to say that children can't go to school because of how they look.
A smoke puff appears and reveals an iPad in Spike's hands with video of students of different races. The video zooms out of full screen and then dissolves to other shots of people with disabilities full screen.
Their skin color, or because they are a boy or a girl. It is also not okay to treat people with disabilities differently. In fact, it's the law.
How would they be treated differently?
Many years ago, some people with disabilities were taken away from their families and had to live in other places. Sometimes people who have disabilities have not been allowed to work in jobs, or sometimes they have not been able to use transportation like riding on buses because they could not physically get onto them.
Now they can because of the ADA?
Things are better than what they were, but people still have problems sometimes.
Characters are back on screen, and then a puff appears and reveals a book with the lettering ADA on it.
The important thing to remember is that the ADA is a civil rights law that doesn't allow discrimination against people with disabilities in schools, jobs, and transportation.
Does that mean people with disabilities must be treated equally?
Exactly. It took a lot of hard work to get the ADA made into a law.
How long ago did it happen?
In 1990, more than 30 years ago. Some students watching this weren't around, but I bet their parents and teachers may remember it. People with disabilities had to teach politicians and everybody that they should be treated fairly. I want you to meet someone who has been very important to getting the ADA to become a law. She has also shown people that just because you might have a disability, you should not be limited.
Slow zoom in on Judy Human as she sits at a table looking at her phone, followed by an empty classroom.
Judy Human was a teacher, just like you have in your classroom.
I'm 73 years old, and that means I was born in 1947, a long time ago, and I had polio in 1949. So basically my entire life as a child, an adolescent, an adult, and now a senior, I've been a wheelchair user and a user of personal assistance services because I need and have always needed help getting in and out of bed, getting dressed, getting bathed.
Aerial view of New York City and the Brooklyn Bridge.
Ms. Human was the first teacher in New York City who used a wheelchair.
I liked working with people, I liked teaching, and it was a profession that a number of my cousins were going into that were older than I was. And so I didn't really look originally at were there other people who were teaching who were wheelchair riders. And once I started thinking about that, it was very clear that the answer was pretty much no.
Picture of Judy Human teaching when she was younger, followed by her with children, and then exterior shot of Public School 219 in Brooklyn.
Some people didn't think that Ms. Human could teach or help children since she used a wheelchair. That is known as discrimination. Ms. Human had passed all of the needed tests to become a teacher except for the medical exam, and since she couldn't walk, she failed it. She had to fight the New York City Education Department in court to be able to teach, and in the end, she became a teacher at the same school that she attended, PS 219 in Brooklyn.
We went to court, and Constance Baker Motley was the judge that handled our case. She was the first Black woman to serve on the federal court, and she encouraged them to give me another medical exam, which they did, and when I was granted my license. And it took a while, a couple of months to get a job because A, many of the schools were not accessible, and B, a lot of principals didn't really want me. I ultimately got a job teaching in the same school that I had gone to when I was in elementary school for the half of the fourth grade, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, was the same principal, and he offered me a job there.
Aerial view of New York City, followed by a formal picture of Judy Heumann with the United States flag in the background.
Because of Ms. Heumann and her attorney's work, a law was changed so that people who used wheelchairs or couldn't walk could get a teaching license in New York. Ms. Heumann is known around the world for her work on disability rights issues and has served in both the United States Education and State Departments as well.
Roxy, you just saw how Judy Heumann was the first teacher who used a wheelchair in New York State.
Very interesting.
Now let's take people into a classroom to find out how students with disabilities might use technology to help them with their schoolwork.
Sounds great.